In this video, I'm ranking every Taylor Swift album based on the threat level of an animal species that represents it, using the official IUCN Red List categories from least concern all the way to extinct. Stick around until the end to see which album I ranked as extinct and how this list compares to my personal Taylor Swift album ranking. Before we jump in though, I want to show you the 12 animal species I picked for the 12 albums. Pause the video right now, head to the comments and guess which animal you think matches each album. The animal twin I chose for debut is the large blue butterfly, a bright blue species listed as near threatened by the IUCN and one that has had a long fight for survival. There's a blue butterfly on her album cover, so this match basically made itself. In her song Invisible, Taylor sings about feeling unseen. That reminds me of the large blue as well. It's a small animal and so easy to miss. And in Tim McGraw, Taylor sings, "The way my blue eyes shined." Well, the large blue's wings shine just like that. Butterflies also symbolize transformation, which fits this album as well. Debut is where Taylor begins to transform from a shy country girl into the superstar she is today. Taylor sings in A Place in This World that she is just a girl trying to find a place in this world. Just like the large blue, it is literally trying to find its place in a changing world. The good news is that in parts of England, the species was successfully reintroduced to multiple sites. But still, not every place is seeing positive change. The future is shaky, or as Taylor puts it, tomorrow's just a mystery. In my personal ranking, Debut is critically endangered. Next on our list is Fearless. For this era, I picked the snowy owl as the animal twin. And trust me, once you hear why, this match makes total sense. This species is vulnerable by the IUCN and facing a fast decline. Kind of like how Fearless looks shiny and magical on the outside, but underneath the songs are full of hard lessons and heartbreak. One of the tracks from this album is White Horse. Taylor sings, "I'm not a princess, this ain't a fairy tale," realizing life isn't going to be as perfect as she imagined. And honestly, the snowy owl is living its own version of that. Its world is changing fast, and the fairy tale of endless ice and endless prey isn't real anymore. Snowy owls depend heavily on lemmings, their main food source. But as the climate warms, lemming populations rise and fall in chaotic ways, leaving the owl searching farther and farther for food. Some drift huge distances trying to survive. Fearless is full of that same energy, stepping into unfamiliar places, taking risks, and refusing to give up even when the world shifts under you. In my personal ranking, Fearless is extinct in the wild. For Speak Now, I picked the mysterious lantern firefly, an endangered species that exists only in a few peatland floodplains in Delaware. It has an extremely small range and depends on high-quality wetlands that are now threatened by sea level rise, flooding, and increasing light pollution. It fits the Speak Now era for two clear reasons. First, sparks fly. Taylor sings, "I see sparks fly whenever you smile." And this firefly literally sends out small flashes every few seconds. Real sparks flying in the dark. Second, long live. In concerts, when the audience holds up their lights, the crowd looks like a sea of fireflies. That same soft blinking glow is exactly what the mysterious lantern firefly creates in its habitat. In my personal ranking, Speak Now is endangered. For the red era, I chose the red fox, a species listed as least concerned by the IUCN. It's one of the most widespread and adaptable mammals in the world, found across almost the entire northern hemisphere, and thriving in everything from forest to farmland to urban areas. This matches red perfectly. The album is all about blending genres, and the red fox is just as versatile in the wild. It shifts habitats easily and eats almost anything from insects to fruit to small mammals and birds. The fox also works with the era's look and energy. Sharp, bold, and unmistakably red. And while it's sometimes hunted or viewed as a pest, none of that threatens the species' overall survival. In my personal ranking, red is least concern, definitely one of my favorites. The animal I chose for 1989 is the Ivory Gull, a species listed as near threatened by the IUCN. And fittingly, there are gulls on the album cover. Ivory gulls are completely white and easy to recognize, just like the sharp, clean pop identity of this era. They live along the shifting edges of Arctic sea ice and have to adjust constantly to changing conditions, similar to how Taylor had to adapt to a new place and a new environment after moving to New York. They often stay in groups, which makes them less vulnerable to predators and helps them find food more efficiently. That group dynamic mirrors the 1989 squad, a tight circle where sticking together offered visibility, support, and a bit of protection during a very public era. The species is declining quickly due to melting sea ice, pollution, and disturbance at breeding sites, with some populations down more than 80%. In my personal ranking, 1989 is critically endangered. For reputation, it was obvious to pick a snake. But which species? I went with the Antiguan racer, a snake listed as critically endangered by the IUCN. It's one of the rarest snakes in the world, once nearly wiped out, pushed into hiding and left for dead by the arrival of invasive predators. Reputation couldn't be more on brand. This species disappeared from almost its entire range and survived only on one tiny island with about 50 individuals. For years, it stayed out of sight, the same way Taylor stepped out of the public eye after the media backlash and the Kardashian-West feud. But the Antiguan racer wasn't finished. With careful protection and reintroduction work, its population has climbed back to over 1,000 snakes across several islands. Still extremely vulnerable, still recovering, but undeniably back. The exact rhythm of Taylor's reputation comeback. In my personal ranking, reputation is in the near-threatened category. For the lover era, I picked the axolotl, a species listed as critically endangered by the IUCN. Its look matches this era almost too well. On the Lover album cover, Taylor is surrounded by soft pink, yellow, and a dreamy light blue. Axolotls naturally come in those same pastel shades, pink, white, and soft golden yellows. And that pale blue easily ties in through the water they live in. Axolotls are known for their gentle, smiling appearance, which fits the bright, optimistic tone Taylor returns to after Reputation. They've become global favorites because they feel wholesome and joyful, a perfect match for the warmth of this era. But the symbolism goes beyond the aesthetic. Axolotls are famous for their ability to regenerate limbs and heal damage, which ties directly into lovers' themes of rebuilding, choosing love, and recovering from past hurt. At the same time, the axolotl is fighting for survival. Its wild population has dropped by more than 80% due to pollution, habitat loss, and invasive species. In my personal ranking, lover is extinct in the wild. For Folklore, the snowshoe hare is a fitting match. It's listed as least concern by the IUCN. This hare lives in quiet northern forests, and its colors shift throughout the year: brown, white, and soft neutrals, matching the muted tones of the Folklore era. That seasonal color change also mirrors how Taylor shifts between different viewpoints and narrators throughout the album, slipping into new perspectives. Snowshoe hares are mostly solitary, which reflects the time when the album was created. During the pandemic, everyone stayed apart and lived in a quieter world, much like this animal's calm, isolated life. In my personal ranking, Folklore is in the endangered category. For Evermore, I picked Ampedus brunicornis, a vulnerable click beetle that lives almost entirely in old oak forests. Its whole life depends on veteran trees, huge aging oaks with hollow trunks and decaying wood inside. That setting matches the muted wintry forest mood of the album, and even the colors line up. The beetle's dark body with warm orange markings looks a lot like the orangey-brown stripes on Taylor's jacket on the album cover. Because this species can only survive where old oaks still stand, its populations are small, isolated, and scattered across the landscape. As Taylor said, with this album, they wander deeper into the forest. And this beetle literally lives in those deeper, quieter parts of the woods. That grounded, understated presence fits the reflective, story-driven atmosphere of this era. In my personal ranking, Evermore is in the vulnerable category. For Midnights, I think the best fitting species is the fishing cat, listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. It's a nocturnal animal, which matches an album built on sleepless nights and the thoughts that surface at midnight. But its situation is serious. Fewer than 8,000 mature individuals remain. Some groups have dropped to just a few hundred, and more than 30% of its habitat has been lost in only a few generations. Conservation efforts exist, but they're not enough to stop the decline, which means the species' only real chance of survival is to keep adapting on its own. That reality mirrors Midnight's themes of pressure, loneliness, and learning to stand on your own 2 feet. Just like in You're on Your Own, Kid, the fishing cat moves through a fragmented world with limited support, relying on its own resilience to make it through. And of course, there's a literal lyrical connection. In Karma, Taylor sings, "Karma is a cat," And since Taylor famously loves cats, including at least one cat species in this list felt almost mandatory. In my personal ranking, Midnight's is in the vulnerable category. For the Tortured Poets department, the species that fits very well is the Kianzi spray toad, officially extinct in the wild. It lived in an extremely tiny, delicate habitat at Kianzi Falls in Tanzania, depending entirely on the constant natural mist that kept its world alive. When a dam cut off most of the water, an artificial sprinkler system was installed to replace what was lost, something meant to keep the species going. But it didn't work as intended. It came too late, broke down at critical moments, and simply couldn't provide what the toads needed to survive. And without that support, the wild population quietly disappeared. That makes a striking parallel to the emotional story of TTPD, leaving a long relationship that no longer felt right, then moving into a new one that seemed like it might offer comfort or stability. It looked like it could help her through everything, the emotional equivalent of a sprinkler system. But in the end, it just couldn't give her the support she hoped for. Now the spray toad survives only through careful captive breeding and attempted reintroductions. In my personal ranking, TTPD is near threatened. I feel like no matter what mood you are in, you will always find a fitting song on this album. Now let's move on to the most recent album, The Life of a Showgirl. The Eurasian otter, listed as near threatened on the IUCN Red List, fits this era very well. The species declined sharply due to pollution, habitat loss, and failing river systems. In many areas, it's recovering thanks to long-term protection, but in others, it remains rare, a reminder that it needs stability and consistent support to survive. That aligns with The Life of a Showgirl, an era built on finally finding a relationship that feels steady instead of chaotic. Otters are known for holding onto each other in the water so they don't drift apart. A simple but powerful image of mutual support. It mirrors the way this album frames love as something grounding, not draining. A partnership that keeps you afloat instead of pulling you under. And since Travis Kelce has openly talked about loving sea otters and wanting to save one someday, the choice feels even more fitting. In my personal ranking, The Life of a Showgirl is in the least concerned category. An instant favorite that even inspired me to start making YouTube videos to raise awareness for environmental issues, among other Swifties. So these are the finished rankings of the albums. The two rankings actually share a few surprising similarities. Red lands in the least concerned category in both lists. Midnight's and Evermore show up in the vulnerable category for both, and Speak Now is in the endangered category in each ranking. Tell me in the comments, is your personal ranking closer to the endangered species ranking or to my ranking? And you might have noticed that we haven't ranked any of the albums in the extinct category. So before we wrap up, there's one last species I want to include, an actually extinct one. It's the splendid poison frog, and I'll tell you a little about it so you can guess which album it matches before I reveal the answer. This small red frog with black patterns lived in the cloud forest of Panama. People have been searching for it since 1992, hoping it might still be out there. But it was officially declared extinct in 2020. If you have guessed that this species fits Reputation TV, you're absolutely right. It fits perfectly in my opinion. Like the frog, people have been waiting for Rep TV to appear for years, and only recently Taylor confirmed it's not happening. Basically, it's extinct. The frog's red and black look mirrors her black bodysuit with red snakes from the Reputation era on the Eras tour. And the fact that it's poisonous ties into the era's darker, vengeful themes. Final question. Shall we continue this series with a matching plain species album ranking? If you're into that idea, give this video a thumbs up.